In this chapter, we're looking at the completed dining room. We started with ideas and inspiration, and now the room is finished. All of the layers and parts and pieces have come together. So we'll use our dining room as an example to walk through the 5 principles of design. Now that the room is complete, it's much easier to see how those things come to life. Those 5 principles are scale, balance, contrast, focus, and flow. Have you ever been in a space before that just felt right? You walked into it and there was something about the environment as a whole that felt complete, it was finished, it felt considered and really carefully and thoughtfully done. I would venture to say that the person that designed that space was thinking about these principles. So in this room, one of the more obvious demonstrations of scale was this oversized light fixture. I knew that I wanted something large and dramatic that really filled the upper space of the room. Since there isn't a lot of furniture in this space, I felt like this light could almost act as another object similar to a table or a cabinet. The reason I leaned on scale here was so that it could really center you in the space, draw you in, and focus your attention here at the table. So continuing on around the space, one of the things I considered when we very first started this project were our 3 windows here along the wall. It's a large architectural moment, and I needed to balance that with something across the room. So I chose this cabinet that is taller, it has some substance to it. If I had chosen a small, very slender piece of furniture, it would have likely felt out of balance with the size of these windows. So that was an example of considering balance. In this case, it was balancing furniture against architecture. So another way that balance is demonstrated is in the gallery wall here. I chose to place more artwork on this right side, a piece of furniture, a plant on a stand, and fewer pieces on the other side. And that was in an attempt to balance the large piece of furniture on the other side of the room. There's more space over here, and so visually, what was on the wall needed to be a little more interesting and layered. Contrast was a big consideration for me in this room. I knew that I wanted to use it in multiple ways. One of those was by painting the ceiling red. So I chose to wrap the entire room in the same color except for the trim around the doors and the windows. But by doing that, everything inside of the space is contrasting against those darker walls. So I went with a lighter table that's in sort of a warm beige color, and then this light wood caned piece of furniture. All of those things are separating from the walls and the ceiling. Of course, the light, as I mentioned earlier, is really in contrast with the ceiling. You look up, and that's the thing you see as it stands out from the really rich, dark ceiling and walls. That was on purpose because I wanted this room to be a space where you feel drawn to and centered around the table, and the walls and the ceiling sort of feel like a night sky or a dark evening. It's very comforting and intimate. So that was an example of using contrast purposefully to evoke a feeling and a mood in a space. Focus in a dining room can come to life in a few different ways, but in our space, I chose to highlight focus in the center of the room. I wanted your eye to be drawn here to the middle when you first walk in the space. So I purposefully kept other pieces of furniture around the room a bit simpler, and I let the attention be here in the middle of the room with this colorful tablecloth. It's very patterned, it's got lots of color. I think also by placing these few things in the center of the table, even just the branches in a vase, all of that is bringing your eye to the middle of the room here at the table. So flow is the last consideration in a space, and that really shows up in some of the finer details. In our case, in this dining room, it's the details of the warm brass that's here on the tray. It's also on the base of the table. It's the fact that many of the colors in the space are similar. They're those warm reds, ivory, tan, the wood that reflects the colors of the wall. Also in the gallery wall, I was really focused on flow in the gallery wall. I chose to repeat the gold frames across multiple pieces of art. And then I kept the art itself a bit more neutral, so mostly relying on blacks and grays and ivory colors so that it felt cohesive across both sides of the wall. I want you to be able to use these as tools along the way and then see how they actually come to life, because they really make a difference. You'll find in the end that you have a room that feels completed, it feels comfortable and balanced. All of the things that I myself as a designer use, you can also use. These tools have proven to be tried and true for me. I use them very often. They have helped me design a dining room that I love, and I hope the same can be true for you.